And good morning. Welcome to our Tai Chi Qigong internal arts class for this Thursday morning. We have started into some new material or new study for the month of September. We are going to be looking at the techniques or the movement patterns of repulse monkey and flying diagonal this month. We're also sort of heading along the path of working through an exercise grouping called the 20 Qigong. So we've been starting with the beginning sections of this form. The 20 Qigong, much like its name says, there's 20 different exercises to this one. And over the next few months, I'd like to try and cover all of them if we can. Okay, let's get those feet settled in the floor. Tongue can go to the roof of the mouth. And we're just going to gently inhale, looking up. And exhale down. Again, we're going to inhale and rise. And exhale to settle. One more time, rising up. And down. And now looking from side to side. So we're going to inhale and look one way. Exhale as we come back, and then inhale the other way. And again, slowly from side to side. And ear can go to one shoulder and hang. And to the other. Again, to the first side. And the second. We can let the head roll and do some gentle half circles. Keeping the jaw closed, we're going to push the chin up and around. And then the other way. Good. Shoulders can come forward. We're going to rise up. We're going to squeeze them back, and then we're going to let them settle. So forward and up, and back, and down. Again, forward and up, and back, and down. And then reverse. Come up the back, and around and down. And one more time. So really get those shoulder blades together, right up to your ears, roll forward, and then drop. Good. Take it to the arms. We're going to cross the arms up over the head and settle. And one more time. Good. And then we're going to reverse. We're going to head the other way. So out and around and down. And let's warm up and stretch out through the side of the body. So we've been talking about the cross-body connection. So we're talking about the opposite foot pushing the ground into the ribs, up to the hand, and then over to the side. And then same, press across the body, lift up the ribs, and hang. One more time on the first side. And on the second. Okay, arms are going to come above the head. We're going to twist the torso and let the arms settle. We're going to twist and reach and rise. And twist and settle. And rise. And let it settle now without twisting. Come back up. We're going to turn at the top and settle. Twist and rise. And twist to settle. And rise. Last time, twist and settle. And then just let your arms go nice and loose. Okay, let's move to the hips. I'm going to roll those hips around one way. And hips around the other. One more time the first way. And the second. Heel is going to touch the floor. We'll let that toe rock in and out as we warm up the hip. And same on the other side. Toe in and out. Toe comes across, lifts up, turns out, and settles. So in, up, out, and down. And then we'll do the same with the other leg. In and out and down. From the outside, so turn the foot out, come across in the front and down. And from the outside to the inside. Good. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of balance and quad strengthening. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the feet in. We're going to sink over to one leg. We're going to lift up through the hip, and then we're going to push out to the heel. Then we're going to come in and step down and lift up and push out to the heel on the other side. In and down. So across to one side, lift and extend, and then in and down, step over, softening that hip, organize head over shoulders and inside the base of support, fold at the hip, and then extend the heel, and then in and down. So up, fold, push out to the heel, in and down. Up, fold the hip and extend, and in and down. We're going to do one more on each leg. So up and extend, and in and down, and on the other side, up and extend, and in and down. And shake it out of those legs. Let's bring the feet nice and close together, and we'll roll the knees around one way, and then the knees around the other way. One more time, the first way, and the second. Good. Let's stretch down towards the floor. We're going to hang down, stretch down towards the ground. And then tuck the chin and roll and come back up. All right, we've been working on the first posture of the 20 Qigong. It's a standing Qigong, or a standing meditation pose. This is with the hands on the lower abdomen. So we're going to put one hand on the lower abdomen. We're going to follow up with the other. We're going to soften in the qua. We want to get a sense of opening up through the lower back. We want to sink down into the legs just a bit. We're not trying to shove the knees forward. We're trying to sit back and into our legs. Want the feet nice and wide. Top of head feels suspended, while the rest of the body feels like it's releasing downwards. And yet at the same time, as we release into the legs, we want to get a feel of support from the ground coming back up to that point to the top of the head. So everything releasing, everything feeling supported. The breathing is in and out through the nose. And it's as exciting as all that. We're going to stand. We're going to try to learn how to kind of connect up with the body. So we want to feel out and through the body. And what we're trying to find is those places of chronic tension that we tend to hold on a regular basis. So a good way to start these kind of standing poses is with kind of a scan down through the body. So you start out sort of at the scalp, and you can release, or imagine you're releasing the tension along the top of the scalp, and take that through the brow and the forehead, and then down through the jaw area. Lots of us clenching in the jaw. Base of the skull tends to hold a bit of a bottleneck of tension, leading to headaches and things. So imagine you can release through there. Let that spread across the shoulders, and then feel the shoulders drop, the shoulder blades drop. And the weight of them wants to go down through the spine, and the spine is releasing on either side. The weight of those shoulders is borne on the hips, and the hips soften and release. The legs let go. The feet and the knees take the weight and give it right down to the floor. And then the floor gives back that support. So now in your imagination, come up from the floor. Feeling of the connection to the ground, up through the legs, up into the tailbone, up through the spine, right out through the top of the head. And we were talking last time about how meditation is one of the easiest things to describe and one of the most difficult things to do. Really, meditation is the goal is to become present, to still the thoughts, and to just be in the moment. Very easy to say, exceptionally hard to do. So what we have to do is we have to keep catching ourselves. We've got to keep catching the monkey mind that wants to jump from subject to subject, or, as a friend of mine calls it, the hamster running in the wheel, where you're just taking a subject and you're just running it and running it and running it in circles. We need to kind of catch ourselves and bring ourselves into the present. So those body scans are good ways to do that. So you could just make your standing meditation just about slowly scanning up and down the body and releasing and becoming aware of it, or the feeling of the lower abdominal area expanding as you inhale and falling away as you exhale. On Tuesday, we were talking about the idea of the sensation around the nostril area. And what we have to do is we have to keep catching that ourselves. So as soon as you realize, oh, my brain is headed off in this direction or that direction, try to let go of it and come back to one of those anchors. You might find an anchor that works really well for you. Maybe it's the feeling of your feet on the floor. There's lots of different places in the body or in the breathing apparatus that we can bring our focus to. And then we just keep repeating that and trying to hold those moments where we're focused on one thing for longer and longer. Okay, we won't take up too much of our lesson time on this. This is something really can be spent lots of time on your own working on, and I do suggest doing it for sure. So what we're going to do is we're going to move to movement number 2 of the 20 Qigong. We're going to settle our arms. Here, just for a second, get a feeling of that draining of tension down towards the ground. And now we're going to engage the shoulder blades to spiral our palms up and out. So we're feeling like we're extending to the walls. We're going to lift this up, right up over the head. And then we're going to settle it back down. So now really we're doing an active version of that scanning and releasing process we did in the stationary Qigong. So now we've got arm motions to kind of mimic that idea of up from the ground and then back down to the ground. Settling, getting that feeling of releasing tension and developing root, of drawing from those roots, of feeling support from the floor, of coaxing those tension areas out of the body. So as those hands come down, again, use your yi, use your intent, your imagination to coax the tension out of the body. We want to open everything up, so feel like you're huge. Feel like you can fill the entire room with your presence. Like when you reach your arms out, you're reaching your arms as wide as Canada. So everything opens nice and big, and that lower abdominal area expands so you can fill with breath. And then settle, sink, and come back down. Okay, let's touch base on the abdominal massage we've been working on. So this is the next piece in our 20 Qigong. And this is where we take the hands, we come up one side of the abdomen, across, and down to the other. So the 20 Qigong exercises are a really nicely developed set of exercises that are really about self-care. So Qigong wants you to be able to go through your range of motion in all the joints and the muscles in the body. But then there's also this aspect of the traditional Chinese medicine that's about connecting your mental state with your physical health. And so in an exercise like this, we want to imagine that we're spreading vitality inside the internal organs. So we've got a sense of warmth, maybe in the hands, it's spreading inside. There's a phrase that gets used in Qigong a lot called the internal smile. Just this idea of sending a sense of goodwill to the function of the internal organs. And then we're going to reverse. And this kind of abdominal exercise is a good place to talk about one of the connections in terms of mental health and emotional health with physical health. And in the traditional 5-element theory, the stomach area is connected with the element earth, but it's connected with the negative emotion of worry and anxiety. And right now, we've got a lot of that happening in the world around us. And so what we want to do is we want to acknowledge that that worry and anxiety can cause negative health effects. And we want to try and slow down the churning in the stomach that worry and anxiety causes. And so we're imagining that we can breathe out the worry and anxiety, release the worry and anxiety, and in its place, find a sense of calm and center. Okay, we're going to finish up and come back down to the lower abdomen. Again, these kind of movements, you can do them for quite a long time if you'd like. And so again here, we just want to imagine that warmth is still spreading all through the internal cavity. We're going to let the hands fall, and we're going to take that warmth now. Imagine that warmth can rise up the spine, and now it's going to get up into the upper back, shoulders, lungs, and we're going to squeeze the shoulder blades together, and then we're going to hollow the chest and push out in the front. So we're going to draw back, we're going to squeeze the shoulder blades together, and then we're going to hollow the chest and push out in the front. One more time. Now, if you were working on that idea of moving vitality with the mind, you can imagine you're kind of now spreading that vitality out to the fingertips. And as we settle the hands, we let everything sink, and we imagine our tailbone rooting right down to the ground. And then we pick up, we leave that tailbone in the ground, and we raise the arms. And now imagine that vitality spreads across the chest and across the upper back. So always multifold. You know, if you want to focus on the physical idea of the releasing of the tension in the muscle groups, you can make that your focus. Again, these are anchors that keep us present. Or you can imagine that vitality spreading through and bringing goodwill. Let's do one more. So we're going to pull back. This is a nice deep inhale, and then an exhale and a push. And then we're going to settle those hands. And we're going to do one more set. So again, here's that moment, fingertips to the ground, tailbone to the ground, and up in the front. Gather into that hollow fist and squeeze back, open the chest, and then hollow and round. So we're working on the mobility of the upper back and always trying to get out of our own way. So as you're pulling back and you feel that tension build up, don't grind and bind. Release and let go of a bit of tension. And come forward. Sometimes releasing tension can cause a real sense of fatigue in the body because suddenly the body is aware of the fact that those muscle groups have been in contraction and holding tight for a long time. One more time. So we're going to pull back and we're going to come forward and then we're going to settle the hands down in the front. Good. And you can shake it out a bit. Okay, the process is going to go up and down the body a lot further now, and we're going to work on the pillar between heaven and earth, which is also a code word for we're going to squat. So we're going to raise those arms up in the front. Remember with the squats, you choose the depth you want to drop into those legs. Just because maybe I'm squatting in deep or you want to get it down into those legs, don't push past where your joints are feeling comfortable. Slowly get there. So we're going to hinge backwards and downwards, kind of tucking that tailbone under and keeping our knees inside of the feet as we settle. Doesn't matter how far you settle. And then we're going to push the ground. So here's that idea. From the ground, up through the spine, up through the shoulders, through the top of the head, right up into the palms, and we press the heels into the air and the balls of the feet into the ground. And then we settle. It's like letting the spine reset. Top of head doesn't want to drop. It stays up as everything else comes back down. So we're going to go up in the front and settle and squat. Nice and slow and controlled. Pick up from the ground. Now around the sternum, we got to reorganize. We're going to sink in and push through the floor and expand in two directions, from center down into the balls of the feet and from center up into the palms of the hands. And then as you settle the heels, let everything release. Let everything come back down. So again, we're going to come up in the front. We're going to hinge back and settle. So we're squatting down and then push through the ground. Bring that back up. Turn it over. This is an exhale as you turn it over. And then we inhale. Shoulder blades engage like that other exercise. And then we press up towards the ceiling. And back down. I'm going to do two more today. So roll it up and settle, settle, nice and controlled. Doesn't matter how far you go. Keep it nice and controlled. And picking up. Engage through the core. Turn over the hands and press it up to the sky. And then settle and down. We're going to do one last sequence of pillar between heaven and earth. So up we go in the front, and then we let it settle, sinking, hinge backwards in those hips, fold in the quad, and then pick up, all the way up. Turn it over, press it up to the sky, and then let it settle and back down. And shake it out a little. Okay, let's look at a movement for our range of motion in the shoulder, and also to get a concept of opening and closing in the body and the torso. So we want to get a sense that one side we're going to slightly compress through the rib cage, so that the distance between the ribs and the pelvis kind of shrinks, and on the other side that opens up. So we've got this kind of ability to move the torso up and down. So it's not shoulder up and down while the center stays still. We want to get a sense of lifting up through the insides. So the one hand is going to go up and over the head, and the other hand is going to come in and behind the back. And what we want to do is we kind of sneak this behind the back, and if we can, we're going to kind of hook the hip with the hand to pull it around the hip. And we're going to push that rib cage up high. Then we're going to settle the hand behind the back, and we're going to settle the hand in the front. So the one drops, the other rises. And around the middle point of the body, you want your palms to pass one another. So one goes up and presses, the other one settles and slides and reaches. And then release the back hand. So you want that, don't pull it out full of tension. Release, let some of the tension drain from that shoulder. And then one up, one down. And then we repeat. So inhale and open up that rib cage. And exhale and let it settle. Inhale and open up. And try to get a feeling of connecting the floor to the palm. So our palm and the foot on the same side, push them away from each other. Open up that side of the body. And then let it settle. Let the arm come out. And up. And behind the back. And push. Nice deep breath in. Open everything up. So we'll do one more on each side. So over, pushing, expanding, contracting on the opposite side. Over the head. And then change. Up. And over the head. And let it settle. And shake it out. Okay, we're going to do one more massage from the 20 Qigong today. So we're going to bring our hands together. I'm going to feel like Mr. Miyagi here. We're going to warm those hands up. And the backs of the hands too. And we're going to do a lower back kidney massage. So we're going to bring the hands onto the lower back. And we're going to raise those up the lower back and then spread them out and across the lower back. Then we're going to turn it over and we're going to massage back down. And we're going to do this by lightly lifting and separating the muscles away from the spine and then going a little lower. Lift and separate and lower. So it's, it's almost like you're kind of fluffing it up here. You're lifting and pulling, lifting and pulling. And you go right down into the tailbone. Then you release, let some of the tension go out of the arms, and then we pull up. Now, if you find it difficult to turn the hands so they face onto the spine, just leave it with the back of your hands for now and just use the knuckles to do that same idea of pull and open, pull and open, pull and open. If you can get the hands there, then you can use your fingertips to help with that. Once you get down the tailbone, you're going to do that again. You're going to rise it up. You're going to spread it out, turn it over, and massage down. If you find a nice spot that needs some work, you can stay with it for a little while. Good. Last time. So we're going to pull that up. You're going to spread it out, and we're going to massage back down. Okay. Let's move on to another piece from the 20 Qigong where we're going to be working our core mobility and lateral abdominal strength. And we're going to do a bow and arrow posture. So we're going to bring the hands up in the front. One's going to go into fist and the other one's going to go into palm. And we're going to end up turning our trunk so the palm goes forward and the fist goes back. Now, as the fist goes back, it's going to come onto the hip. And what we want is we want the palm pressing forward, the elbow pressing backwards, and the head to work on the range in the neck, looks over the shoulder. Then we release all that, come to center, and we grasp with the opposite hand, and we spread and open with the other hand, and we repeat that on the other side. Now remember, as a rule for good health in your knees, don't let your knees come out of track with your toes. You want your knees and your toes to stay tracking together. Remember that knee is a hinge joint. It's not fond of rotation. So let your spine do that rotating. Let your hips settle, but keep those knees. There shouldn't be a buildup of tension in the knees when you're doing this. And so what you're looking for is, if you're feeling like your feet are peeling away from the floor while you're doing these rotations, that means you're really putting a lot of twist and torque in the knee. So don't go as far into the technique. Release where you are until you can feel what you really want to have in contact with the floor is the ball of the foot and the center of the foot as good anchor points for not rolling out with your ankles. So really feel like that ball of the foot's in the ground. And the more you turn, the more those feet feel like they settle and root rather than peel away from the floor. We'll just do one more on each side. So typical of the 20 Qigong, it's going to be an inhale into the pose. And remember, release while you're there. It's not about pulling harder. A real range of motion is a free range of motion, not one that has to be forced. So if you're having to force the range, you're probably compromising somewhere in the body to get the result you're looking for. Last one. So as we pull, as we draw, in your mind, keep the shoulders relaxed and look for ways to release into the pose as opposed to jam and push into the pose. Okay, come to center, let those hands settle. All right, time is flying along on us. I'm going to do one more piece from the 20 Qigong. We were looking at this over the last few weeks at the end of end of August. It's not the end of September yet. At the end of August, beginning of September. And this is the one for balance and rolling through the feet. So we're going to put one foot heel down, toe up. And this is a really good exercise for learning how to move forward without popping upwards. because what it's going to ask us to do is raise the back heel without changing the height of the body. So I don't want to pop up. I want to feel like I can fold in the hip and the knee and just raise that heel up while the toe is on the opposite side. So I'm going to balance here for a second. I'm going to roll through those toes. I'm stretching out the toes. I'm going to do that on the other side. So I'm going to step. I'm going to try to raise that heel without raising my head. And then I'm going to stretch the top of the foot by rolling over right onto the top of the toes. And then I'm going to stretch the ball of the foot by pressing it in the ground. And then I'm going to do a bit of a calf stretch by pulling the toes towards my shin. Then I step back, stretch the ball of the foot, squeeze down and stretch the calf by pulling the, so you're kind of using traction on the floor. The heel kind of sticks and the toe comes towards the shin. Step in with that foot and step out with the other foot. So we go balance on the ball and the heel, fold, roll through the toes, fold, roll through, top of foot stretches, ball of foot stretches, calf stretches, ball of foot stretches, and calf stretches, step in, step out. Good. Roll through the feet. 1, 2, top of foot stretch, ball of foot stretches, calf stretches, ball of foot stretches, and calf, step in and out. Roll through 1, roll through 2, top of foot, ball of foot, toe and calf, ball of foot and calf, step in, step out. And one last time, roll through and stretch, and calf, ball of foot and calf. So your head height doesn't change. This will be the last one on this opposite side. So roll and roll through the foot, top of foot stretch, ball of foot, calf, ball of foot, calf, and in. Okay. How are we doing here? Time is disappearing, but we said we had a couple of techniques that we were going to work on in the Tai Chi this time around. So let's put 1 foot forward. Let's put 1 foot back into our forward bow stance. And what we want to be able to do is fold in the front hip and settle with a fairly open hip in the back. And then we want to settle in the back with a fairly open hip in the front. Now this is where those rules about weight bearing and knees come together. So if I'm bearing weight in the front leg, the knee and the foot are working in unison. If I'm bearing weight in the back leg, knee and foot are working in unison, and I want to be able to shift between those. And like that last exercise, we want to really feel the ball, the foot pressing in the ground, and we don't want to pop up and down. So to move forward, we need to soften the front hip and absorb or settle the root into the front foot. To move backwards, soften that back foot and get a sense of rooting into the back leg. And then you're playing this adjustment between. The direction of your back toe is going to kind of dictate how much of a diagonal you get. So the more your back toe faces forward, the more square you're going to stay as you move back and forth. The more you open that foot outwards, the more you're going to turn to the side. Now we are working on rolling the arm, gathering and settling at the shoulder, and then as we come forward, pressing that to the ground. So we roll back, gather up, come forward, and press. roll, gather, and press. That's it. Now in the 20 Qigong, we were inhaling a lot of the time. We were coming into the pose. But now we've moved into the Tai Chi. We're going to use a little bit more martial breathing. Exhale. As you press that hand down, inhale as you gather up, and exhale to come down. Let's try it on the other side. So front foot is going to be what develops your square, your facing forward position. Back foot is going to dictate diagonal. Now, you can settle deeper into the hip as long as you're not twisting and binding that knee. So we were rocking back and forth, and then we were going to add roll back, under, settle, come forward. So here we're working on support. For those people who have been working for a while, get a sense of getting under, like if there was something you want to lift up. And then as we come forward, rest and press down. So come around. Remember, a lot of Tai Chi's work is based on grappling in the upright position. So this is the idea of being able to wrap around arms and things of the sort, and then pressure down into the ground. This could be a throw over this back leg, where you're kind of hooking around somebody, and then you're throwing them over that back leg. Now, we wouldn't be in a stationary position to set this up. You might be slipping into that position and throwing, but that gets a bit of that idea of where the pressure is. It's down and in and back and support. So we're joking, you know, you have a big ghetto blaster on your shoulder here, and then you're going to drive that down. Okay, let's come up out of the legs for a second, and let's work on the front arm. And this is one where people, in my experience teaching this, struggle with this next part of the technique because they often think of it as just a rotator cuff flick. So they're kind of flicking the hand out. What we want to get in this case is, again, the timing so that we are turning the trunk, and the turning of the trunk extends in. So yes, there is that rotation, but it shouldn't be separate of the push from the back leg. So we're going to roll this palm down, and then we're going to cut forward. Roll this palm down and cut forward. Try not to let the hand get there before the torso. So remember, our firing order in the lower body is center presses hip, hip presses knee, knee presses ankle and foot. In the upper body, we have that pressure of the ground that gets translated through the spine, through the shoulder, elbow, wrist. So from center, hip, knee, ankle, foot. From center, spine, shoulder, elbow, wrist. Let's try it on the other side. So we're going to go roll back, cut forward. Roll back, cut forward. So if we're thinking about that upright grapple again, now we're really looking at a throw or over that lead leg. So you can imagine you're kind of shouldering up against somebody, getting underneath their armpits and chest and driving them over your leg. That's why this will never work. You cannot throw somebody by just flicking your arm. You want to shoulder in there and twist the body. Shoulder in and twist. And we want to use the summation of our joint forces. We want to link those joint forces together so we're not fighting with the strength of our arm alone. We've got the stability of the world that we are pressing through our arm and out. Okay, here we go. And pat the head and rub the stomach. Let's get both parts going. So we'll go back to the first side. I'll change angles a few times as we do this time. We're going to have both hands come back and end up in a position that we'll refer to as hold golden ball. As we leave the hold golden ball position, we're going to do both those arm techniques. We're going to press one down. We're going to let the other one extend. We're going to roll back, rest, and now both arms support. Now in this case, what's going to happen is the top arm is going to rest, and the bottom arm is going to get a feeling of lift and support, while that top arm presses into the ground and the hips are exchanging. From the back leg to wind up, to the front leg to issue. From the back leg to wind up, and issue. One more on this side, back, and issue. Let's change legs. Let's put the other leg forward. So I'm going to, again, I'm rolling into that back leg. And just rolling into that back leg really has everything organized, so I just have to go and hold my hands in place. Same coming forward. As I roll forward, by the time I'm in the forward position, I just have to allow my arms to extend from core. So around and draw in, and then forward to push back out. Around and draw in, and forward and out. So around to draw, and forward to press. Around and draw, and forward. One more time, around and forward. Okay, so that's our flying diagonal. We're going to work on linking this into a walk over the next few weeks. Let's touch base with the other technique from the Tai Chi that we're going to be working on for the next few weeks, and that is the repulse monkey. Repulse monkey is one of the studies of repulse monkey is how to retreat, how to move backwards. So there's some leg work in moving backwards. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that when we move backwards, we're kind of scribing crescents on the floor. So let's just try that for a second without having to lift legs or do anything crazy. Is whatever amount of room you have, what I want you to do is, I'm going to exaggerate for a second. It's almost like you're going to click your heels and then step out to the side of it. Now you're not stepping super wide because you're not going to be effectively going backwards if you're really getting super wide, but you want to go in and about shoulder width behind you. In and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Try that a couple more times. So step back, scribe those crescents on the floor, in and out, in and out. So strategically, what this is doing for us is making sure that our muscle memory for going backwards is not getting us into hook behind, hook behind, hook behind. Because retreating in a self-defense situation is always difficult. You're always at a disadvantage because the other person can typically move forward faster than you can move backwards. There's always that chance of catching a heel. We don't have the toes to support us. And so retreating back, especially if we're hooking feet behind us, can get to a point where you're just going to trip yourself. When we're moving slowly, and I see this a lot in Tai Chi, because we're moving slowly, people end up doing their repulse monkeys and they're getting their feet here and they're kind of hooking behind. And because they're moving slowly, there is no negative effect to it for the most part. But remember, we have to be able to produce our movements quickly. The slowness is only as an accuracy and chaining technique, but it needs to be quick in the end. So as an exercise for balance, we're going to use crane, when we do the footwork for repulse monkey. So now we're going to do is instead of crescent in with the foot one beside the other, we're going to bring that up. But when we step back, we want to step out to shoulder width. And what we want to do is go ball to heel. Now on the other side, I'm pushing off my ball and moving to the heel as well. So lift, touch. If I want to put the brakes on, I'm going to turn that foot out sideways so I can get my diagonal and come back. If I want to keep moving, I'm going to keep these feet a little bit more straight behind me. So let's take a couple of walk backs with this one. So we're going to pick up, step back. Now, as a health practice, there's a nice lift to the heel, which is like that 20 Qigong, where you're getting a bit of the stretching and opening of the calf. So up and push through and lift, up, turn. So notice I'm profiling my chest. Because my back foot's setting down on a little bit of an open angle, that means I profile myself and I put my shoulder in front of me rather than my solar plexus and center. So here's more of the strategic moving back. You move back and you profile yourself. So you're presenting a smaller target, and you've created an angle so that you're not presenting your internal cavity to the person to strike. Now this can be connected to kicking to retreat, and that's what, or kneeing to retreat. So that lifting of the knee might be a strike before you set back and step out of the way. So it might be that you've hit and now you're moving back, or you have lifted and kicked before you move back. But notice how moving back, I'm ending up with that profile, that diagonal in my hips. And because my neutral point for my shoulders and upper body is connected to the hips and the weight-bearing foot, if I allow myself to settle to that neutral, I have profiled myself. So if I'm facing you square and you want to punch me in the center and I shift myself back, notice how I've taken that center a little bit offline. And what's happened? I've got a position where I'm going to be able to put this hand up. Now, there's a lot of modern self-defense systems that talk about the body language of defense. And I really like the language. So a couple of them use called the fence. And this is the idea of putting an arm into that space, but also look at the body language of the hand. This is not me setting up. This is me de-escalating. I've taken a smart approach. I have stepped my body on a 45. I've placed my forearm and my hand now between myself and the opponent, and I'm profiled here. Now that other hand can be anywhere in play. Eventually with our exercise, it might be down at the hip, but that's just to get a feel of the pull-push idea. So let's do a little bit of a step back, leave me alone, back off, get your own sandwich. So you're gonna go step back, hand is up. As you step back, notice as I turn my trunk, it's going to engage this shoulder and elbow going forward as I root back in my back leg. Now really, this can just be a setup because we know that the power arm is where most of our strength is going to come from. So as I step back into my de-escalating position, it's okay, we're just going to talk. I have set up my rear arm for potential, for pushing, for striking, for engaging. If I'm standing square and flat-footed, I can reach, but I don't have that full hip rotation. So what I want you to do is go from a neutral position, and you're going to go crescent, hand up. Come back to your neutral position. Look at this. We're going to do we were doing forward diagonals last month when we were coming forward into our high pad on horse or fan through back or ferme at the shuttles. Now what we're going to do is step to that backwards. So we're doing the triangle step back and the hand comes up. Don't make the hand anything important. It's just part of moving backwards. The hand comes up. Now, if you want to engage some core muscles, think about drawing the abdominal area back to engage that hand coming forward. So you go step back, come into place, step back. And notice how we're actually stepping into a bit of an advantageous position. If you want to get a little bit more distance, say you're nervous about this person, then you can push heavier off that front leg and move back a little bit. So you can gain some distance. So I'm now pushing and catching up. I'm pushing and settling back. So this is a little bit about what our repulse monkey footwork is. It's like, hey, wait a second, it's okay. But you're getting yourself offline and you're getting yourself rooted and prepared. A couple more times and we got to let it go for today. So press that out, come back. Press that out, come back. Want to get a little bit more going on? Kick, step back. Kick, step back out of the way. So you can kind of, or a knee, someone's holding you, and what you do is you throw your knee in there, and then as you move back, you're shoving off from the person. So you could be kicking or kneeing and shoving off. Now in Tai Chi, it's just done really slow. We're really learning how to catch our balance, and then we're learning how to twist and engage as we go back. Okay, gonna have to let it go today. So shoulders can roll one way, and shoulders can roll the other. Arms can circle back, and arms can circle forward. One more time. We'll reach that over and lean to one side. Good. And we'll reach it up and over to the other. And a little bit of a stretch down to one leg. And up. And stretch down to the other. And come into your center and roll up. Okay, last posture is the chi release. Comes in and down and away. So at the beginning of class, we started by picking the energy up and stuffing it in our center. Now we're still focused on center. We're kind of packing all the potential in the center and into the legs. And we're kind of smoothing out. I want to think of the energy sense of this. You're kind of smoothing out the energy in the body and rooting yourself. Okay, we started class by focusing on center. Now settle, 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 and hold. Scan the body, feel the ground. Top of head is in the heavens, feet are in the earth. Center is full of potential. Great. Okay, we will see you for some more Tai Chi next week, or we'll see you in half an hour to start stick class for the Mahjong stick work.